A young woman drives into the freezing night, her car left behind, locked, belongings inside. Just minutes later, she is gone. No footprints, no trail, no trace of Maura Murray. What happened on that desolate New Hampshire road in February 2004 remains one of the most haunting mysteries in American history. Tonight, we enter the silence and follow the shadows. Maura Murray was just 21 years old when she vanished. A bright, athletic nursing student at the University of Massachusetts, Amherst. A young woman with a future ahead of her, yet carrying the quiet weight of personal struggles that only a few around her knew. Born in Hanson, Massachusetts, the fourth of 5 children in a close-knit Irish-American family, Maura was raised with structure, love, and expectations. Her father, Fred Murray, a devoted parent, worked tirelessly and stayed close to his children. Maura was described as intelligent, driven, and talented, excelling both academically and athletically. She had once been accepted to the prestigious United States Military Academy at West Point, following in the footsteps of her older sister. But after a time, she transferred to UMass to pursue nursing. Friends say she was focused, but also carried emotional turbulence. Life was not perfect. Behind the facade of success, Maura faced struggles, academic pressures, relationship challenges, and personal missteps. New Hampshire's White Mountains are breathtaking, dense forests, winding rural roads, and small towns that seem frozen in time. But in February, they are also brutal. Bitterly cold nights. Icy, narrow highways. Endless woods where sound is swallowed, and where a wrong turn can mean disaster. It was here, in the town of Haverhill, that Maura's story would end, or perhaps begin a darker new chapter. In the early 2000s, Maura's life appeared full of promise. But cracks had begun to show. She had minor brushes with the law, a shoplifting incident involving makeup, and a credit card misuse case that was later dismissed. She struggled with stress from her nursing program, and she was in a long-distance relationship with her boyfriend, Billy, an Army lieutenant stationed in Oklahoma. Friends and family said the relationship was strained. Still, nothing suggested the chilling disappearance to come. And yet, just days before February 9th, her behavior began to shift in unsettling ways. On the night of February 5th, while working her campus security job at UMass, Maura received a phone call. What was said on the other end remains a mystery. But the impact was immediate. She broke down into uncontrollable tears. Her supervisor described her as inconsolable. When asked what was wrong, she reportedly said only, "My sister?" But later, her sister stated she never knew of any problem. To this day, what triggered that breakdown remains a haunting unknown. 2 days later, Maura had dinner with her father, Fred. The two went shopping for a new car, and later that night, Maura borrowed his Toyota Corolla. Driving back to her dorm, she crashed it, causing nearly $10,000 in damages. Police records show alcohol may have been involved. Fred was reportedly upset but supportive. He told her it was just a car, urging her not to worry. But the accident seemed to weigh on Maura heavily. The day Maura vanished was filled with puzzling choices. That morning, she emailed her professors. She wrote that she would be out of class for a week due to a family emergency. But her family later confirmed there was no such emergency. She then used an ATM to withdraw $280 in cash, nearly all she had. Security cameras captured her standing at the machine, wearing a dark coat, gloves, and pulling cash. Next, she stopped at a liquor store, purchasing wine and vodka. She packed her black Saturn sedan with clothes, textbooks, and personal belongings. To some, it looked like she was preparing for a trip. To others, it looked like she was preparing to disappear. Around 4:30 p.m., she left campus and headed north. The journey north took her deep into New Hampshire's rural roads. Snow covered the ground. Temperatures were below freezing. By 7:27 p.m., she was in Haverhill, driving along Route 112. At some point, she lost control. Her car slid into a snowbank. And that was the last verified sighting of Maura Murray alive. A local bus driver, Butch Atwood, came across the scene. He saw Maura's car stuck in the snow. He pulled up, rolled down his window, and offered help. But Maura declined. She told him she had already called AAA roadside assistance. But phone records later showed no such call had been made. Atwood drove on, but called the police. By the time officers arrived just minutes later, the car was empty. The driver's side door was locked. Inside were Maura's belongings: alcohol, clothes, maps. The windshield was cracked. Outside, no footprints in the snow. No trail leading into the woods. No sign of Maura. She had vanished. The search began quickly. Local police canvassed the woods. K-9 units picked up Maura's scent, but only for a short distance down the road. Then it vanished, as if she had disappeared into thin air. This detail has fueled endless speculation. Did she willingly get into another vehicle? Was she abducted? Or did the scent simply fade in the freezing conditions? In the following days, the search widened. Helicopters flew overhead with thermal imaging. Volunteers walked through the forests, rivers, and ravines. Flyers were posted, but nothing was found. Fred Murray grew increasingly frustrated, criticizing police for what he described as a slow and disorganized response. He believed precious hours had been lost. Weeks turned into months. Leads emerged, but each one dissolved into dead ends. Critics have long argued that mistakes were made in the early investigation. Delays in communication, incomplete searches, and limited coordination between agencies may have cost valuable time. The harsh environment of the White Mountains also worked against them. Snow could bury evidence. The cold could erase signs of life. Years later, despite the involvement of the FBI and private investigators, no definitive answers have been uncovered. As time passed, Maura's case captured national attention. News outlets covered it extensively, framing it as a modern-day mystery. But it was on the internet that the case truly exploded. Online forums, blogs, and later podcasts dissected every detail. Some amateur sleuths dedicated years of their lives to analyzing Maura's last movements. The case became one of the first, viral, true crime mysteries of the digital age. Theories of what happened. Theory 1. Voluntary disappearance. Some believe Maura staged her disappearance. She withdrew cash, purchased alcohol, and packed her belongings. Did she plan to start a new life? Critics argue this is unlikely. She left behind family, friends, and no trace of communication. Theory 2. Accident in the wilderness. Another theory suggests she wandered into the woods and succumbed to the freezing temperatures. But extensive searches found no remains. Could the forest have hidden her forever? Theory 3. Foul play. Perhaps the most chilling theory is that Maura was abducted after the crash. Did someone stop to help, only to lure her away? Or was she picked up by a stranger, or even someone she knew? Several details complicate the mystery. The phone call that triggered her breakdown days earlier. The email to professors about a family emergency that never existed. The sudden trip north with no clear destination. Each piece adds to the puzzle, but none bring clarity. The rise of online investigators has fueled theories, but also controversy. Some have accused law enforcement of withholding information. Others suggest that certain leads were never fully pursued. The truth remains elusive. Nearly 2 decades later, Maura Murray's disappearance remains unsolved. For her family, the pain continues. Fred Murray has spent years demanding answers, unwilling to let his daughter's story fade into silence. For the public, the case is a haunting reminder of how quickly a life can vanish, and how mystery can grow in the absence of truth. So what really happened to Maura Murray? Was she running from something or someone? Did she vanish into the wilderness, or was she taken from that lonely road? The answers remain locked in the frozen night of February 2004. But perhaps you hold a piece of the truth. Share your theories in the comments. And if you want to uncover more chilling cold cases, subscribe to Haunting Cold Cases. Because every shadow hides a story.